Hey friends, you're listening to Life in the Pit. My name is David Lane, and I just wanted to check in with you today for just a short episode. Um, Spontaneity is something that I think I do pretty well in music. I improvise pretty well, but it's something that I don't always do with other aspects of my life. I'm a big planner. One of my favorite apps is Google Tasks. Just daily having things that I can check off and um, when I do podcast episodes, I usually plan them out fairly well in advance. So I don't do a whole lot of really truly spontaneous episodes. And as I'm recording, it's a little after noon on Friday, the 20th of May, and I just got this idea of something that I was going to share either in a post or maybe a video, and and I just remembered, oh yeah, I have this platform and I have people who are actually, interested in this subject. So rather than put out what would be probably a lengthy video post, I'm going to put what will be a much shorter than normal podcast episode, just about something that I've noticed lately. A lot of you listeners who play in the pit, you don't play for Broadway or you don't play for professional tours. I have quite a few of you that do, but a lot of you are basically playing for schools, playing for communities. You have basically a local market, possibly a small regional market where you are getting your gigs. And if you are a music director for such a theater, you are probably your own contractor. You probably don't have a designated person finding your musicians. So if you're the music director, you need to go and find the musicians that you're going to be using for that particular production that you're trying to find musicians for. And I've noticed more than one person who has taken to using a Facebook group as a here's my needs and who would be interested in playing. And on one hand, I totally get it. So I'm talking about Facebook groups like this area has a Facebook group for theater musicians. And there are other areas. Your area probably has one too, if you don't live in my area. And I, as a music director, I really do get it. It's a time saver. You, instead of actually going to find a violinist one by one, you can just say, I need a violinist, and watch people kind of bid themselves, like I'm available, I'm not, and then you can kind of choose your response. Now, keeping in mind, we're talking about gigs for community theater, we're talking about gigs for schools or something like that. I'm not talking, again, about even professional regional theater or any type of a professional tour or anything like that. And so, given that nature, and given how important networking is in any industry, but especially, music industry and in the theater, I'm bothered by that approach. When I was growing up in Florida, we had a fish pond that had quite a few bass and brim in it, and we had this certain type of food they just love. So, just for fun of it, we just throw a handful of that particular food in there, and just basically watch the show. They just all crowd around, eagerly gathering up all the food. And sometimes you don't. That doesn't happen. Um, on a group, a lot of people were busy and unable to respond. But sometimes, if it's a common instrument, like if you're trying to find, I don't know, a guitarist or a clarinetist or trumpet player, it just feels like in these Facebook groups, me, or here's my friend. And I think that is a good approach if you don't know anybody, or everybody that you do know, you have confirmed is not available. I once was looking for a pedal steel guitarist, and the only one that I knew personally had told me that they were not available. So that's where this group comes in handy. But The music director that prompted this post knows a lot of musicians for certain books, and I mean they are mutual friends, and they've played more than one show. So I know that the music director was happy with their services, and yet I also know never actually contacted them directly about the gig. They just go to this group as a time saver to just see who might be interested for the gig. And I just think that's in the long run, that's not a good strategy for a music director. You might build up your network, but one of the things that I have found really beneficial for myself in this area is building some friendships and some relationships, because I might have gigs every now and then that are not economically as ideal as I'd like to be. But I get some of the musicians that I want to work with because I go to them directly. And as I've said before, some of them are not objectively the absolute best players of their instruments in this area, but they are good. They do a good job. They prepare well. They're reliable. And for those instruments, I'm not about to go jump on a Facebook group and say, hey, which of you, several dozen people who play this instrument, would like this gig? And gosh, I hope your notifications are on, or that you happen to be on Facebook at the moment. Otherwise, oops, you missed out. That's I'm just really bothered by that approach. If you hire somebody and they do good work and you get along with them, then I really think that you need to ask that person again. You need to give them first refusal before you go a different direction. Now, this is a very opinionated episode. I have no doubt that others of you who are music directors, you may radically disagree with this whole idea. And that's okay. I welcome your feedback. You can send it to me and so forth in any way you choose, whether it's on a comment, for this post, or whether it's through my website, a direct message. I definitely I welcome the other feedback, because maybe I'm in the minority on this, but I really want to encourage music directors, from my perspective, nurture your network. So there are going to be times you might hire somebody for an instrument and they don't do a good job, or they did okay but their attitude wasn't that great. There are things that you could say, well, either I'm not going to ever ask them again, and I've had that with a few musicians, or I would work with them again, but I want to ask a few other people first. So there are reasons to bypass the one-on-one connections, but I feel like I'm seeing it more and more often. There's a specific instance lately that prompted this post, but that wasn't the first time I've seen it, and it wasn't from this one person. It seems like it's just kind of a little common, I hate to use this word, but it's a common cop-out for doing the work of calling, texting, emailing people you already know to see if they might be interested in doing the gig. Again, maybe I'm misinformed about all this, but one thing I do know for sure, it's hard to build a relationship when your method of hiring is the equivalent of putting fish food in a pond full of fish and seeing who bites. If you're in a big hurry and your go-to people are not available, yes. I know that was not the case with this most recent post for all of the instruments. And so I just want to say you'll be happier in the long run with the musicians that you have if you nurture the relationships of the people that you work with and enjoy the experience. You want to keep bringing them back. Doesn't mean you can't try somebody else, but I really believe you owe the people who have delivered for you before, you owe them first refusal. So let me just encourage you, if you're a music director, if you are not in a situation of panic, and that's another thing, don't put yourself in a position of panic. Sometimes things come up, but I feel like too often these situations that come up are avoidable. If you've got a show, if you're music directing, and you know it's 3 months, 4 months away, well, the time is now. Go ahead and start getting those musicians booked. Don't wait until you're only a month out or a few weeks out. And so I apologize. This is a little bit more judgy, a little more opinionated than I normally do, but this was a rant that I kind of wanted to get off my chest, and I'm fine if you disagree with me. I would invite you to engage in conversation, and if I'm way off on this, let me know. I can bring this up on a future episode, and with an update. But let me know what you all think. And I've already recorded, by the way, the next interview that's going to be featured. So it'll be a regular episode as far as having a guest on with a great topic. I don't want to tell you any more right now, but that will be out next Friday, the 27th. So definitely encourage you to check back wherever you're getting your podcasts. And we look forward to seeing you next week.